Welcome back to the Empty the Quiver podcast, your front row seats for all things Utah Archers. From game recaps to standout performances, we'll be your guides to all things orange and blue. Let's let it fly. Welcome back to another episode of the Empty the Quiver podcast. Just JB and I this week after an awesome string of guests. Really want to thank Coach Bates, Piper, Nick Washuta for all joining the show. We actually had media passes out in Utah when we were out there a couple weeks ago. So thank you to the PLL for that, for having us. We had a blast doing it. They really take great care of us. But back to the real world. Had a long break there between the neutral site game up near Boston, Memorial Day weekend. It's time to get back to it, and it's time to take on the Maryland Whipsnakes in Maryland. John, what do you think?
So Baltimore, this is the first of two games where we will be playing at the homecoming of the team we're playing against. So we play the Whipsnakes in Maryland, and then we go straight to Carolina to play the Chaos. The nice thing about the Baltimore matchup is that when we play Maryland, it's their second game of the weekend. When we play Carolina, it's their first game of the weekend. Although, if you look at what happened in Utah, and then again last weekend, the second game actually helped the home team somehow, reverses the trend from the previous season. So I think we match up well, though, against the Whips. I really do. I'm optimistic going in.
Yeah, well, definitely will be some lineup changes. Obviously, we've seen Brett Dobson, Trey Leclerc coming back from the NLL, Warren Jeffrey back from family leave. The lineup's going to look a little bit different. Still to be seen. We're recording this. Is today Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday night. So McGuire, as of now, has not signed his contract yet. Obviously, he played just last weekend on Friday in the Final Four. So I would love to see him, but I mean, you have to feel great about what our defense is going to look like going forward. Obviously, we've got the three main short sticks: Bond, Mar, and Bo, and then Colin Sharkey has been really, really good so far. And now we're going to get to take Mitchell Dunham, who we'll talk about here in a little bit. Awesome first weekend, moving up to LSM. Going to have a kind of a close defense. Warren Jeffrey, Mason Woodward, and Brennan Lavelle, and then Cam Wires is the other LSM. So, I mean, we're averaging an ice cream game right now. I could see us doing that for a little bit. Hopefully, I don't know. I got a nice wood desk here. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. But and obviously, like I said, backstop by Dobson. Washuta absolutely stood on his head, but we're talking about a two-time championship MVP here. Really, surprised he hasn't won a goalie of the year yet. So have to feel good about that.
Yeah, and also since we last talked, tip of the cap to Brett Dobson on winning the MVP for the NLL. Huge honor. We talked, I think it was our first recorded episode ever, maybe the second, where we said the Utah Archers are in great shape because we have the reigning NLL MVP in Connor Fields and the best goalie in the NLL. Well, now we have the best two indoor MVPs in Fields and Dobson. One on offense, one on defense. It just doesn't get much better than that. So
yeah,
hopefully we can roll that into a nice little run here of victories.
Yeah. Well, now on the offensive end too, I know, when Grant was moved to the PUP list, I think kind of the logic there was, hey, if we go ahead and do it now, then we have the team bye and the league bye, which would be eligible for him to come back. So we're about to, I don't know, kind of see where the sausage is made on offense here. Really kind of seeing what pieces move around. Really like what we saw from the two young righties, CK and Steins. Do we see one of those guys kind of get moved to the reserve roster? Do we see a guy that we're a little bit more familiar with move to the reserve roster? I mean, and you got to think about Trey coming back as well. So we're really looking. I think Bryce Ford played for us in that second game, so that's the first name that comes to mind. I think he was replacing Dyson. So I mean, we're really trying to fit three guys back into that Outlaws lineup. I don't know. What do you think there, JB?
I also think we have an extra pull too, right? So we get Warren Jeffrey back, and then either Stull or Till will probably go. Since one played the early game, one played the late game. I'm thinking they'll probably be on the reserve because we need to keep them around. We need a sixth in case something would happen, and they both
Yep.
play great, interchangeable there. So I I do think it's going to be tough when you start to, if Grant's healthy, if Matt Moore comes back healthy, which that's a big if. Tom too, big if. But there's a lot of names and not a lot of spaces. So
Yeah.
you also have to consider Pro Day. So Pro Day is this weekend in Baltimore. It gives Coach Bates and Resh and Cav a chance to take a look at the guys who did not get drafted. And as the Archers' first overall pick, that we get the first pick, if you want to call it that, after the pro day. So if they see a guy they really want and they want to add him to the Archers roster, that's the time to do it. So a lot of
Yeah.
names. We can keep 25. 19 are active. So I think we have a pretty good idea of who those 25 will be. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting as the season goes on to see who that one or two odd man out ends up being.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could pretty much lock in King, Fields, and Trey right now for me. Everyone else kind of feels a little bit more in flux. We saw a really interesting couple of lineups against Denver. I mean, Ryan Ambler was playing lefty attack in Mac O'Keefe's spot. We saw a variety of guys in the Matt Moore spot. We saw CKG and Cole. We saw King. I'm sure we'll see Trey there a little bit to start the game against Maryland. So, like I said, a lot of it's going to be in flux. We talked to Coach Bates. It really may depend on what side of the field the box is on. So it'll be really interesting to see how all of that kind of resolves itself. Definitely would not want to be Coach Bates, but I mean, until we start to score, 12, 13, 14 goals a game, we need to keep trying, different combinations because as much as I'd like for us to average an ice cream game, I'm not sure that's completely feasible.
Yeah, we have to be realistic here. So Trey LeClaire, opening whistle, is he out there as an attackman or is he coming out of the box? What do you think?
I think if the righty box, so if our goal is here and our bench is here, I think Trey is here. I think they want him to run out of the box when the righty wing is over here. So maybe he can play a two-man game. Definitely a threat to shoot from two. So I don't know. We'll see.
Do you know what
And
would fit perfectly between those two championship banners behind your head? A whiteboard. Idea for the
maybe
future. That'd be awesome.
we might have to look into that. Then I'd have to
Yeah,
learn
I
how
might have
to
to.
draw backwards and
I might have to hit Amazon for you and have one show up at your place because we could do a little breakdown session.
yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Well, speaking of breakdown, let's talk about the two games from Utah. Obviously, something I wanted to bring up earlier was the first game and the homecoming weekend. It's both us and Boston lost, and then won in the second game. So kind of having a leg up on the guys that were playing a first game. Obviously, not the start to the season that we wanted.
Sure.
Credit to the Redwoods. They were missing guys like we were. Obviously, Dylan Ward stood on his head. And then who was really coming out and saying, yeah, Mikey Bain's going to have 5 points. Um, you know, but, still, still under 10 goals. I mean, as a professional lacrosse team, and I asked basis in the press conference, I said, coming off a season where we averaged less than 10 goals a game, who do you lean on? And maybe not the most straightforward answer, but I think a good answer of saying we have to rely on our system and everybody has to do their job. I think, the whole point of having four short stick defensive midfielders is to push and transition, keep guys on, and make them make a mistake. And we just didn't do that in the first game. I think that was the biggest thing for me was we were much more aggressive in transition in the Denver game than we were in the Redwoods game.
Absolutely. I first with the Redwoods. Cole Kastner continues to haunt my dreams. Back to that fourth pick at the ESPN studios, he was locked down, and the whole Redwoods defense played phenomenal. That was one
They weren't
part of
missing
their
pieces from there.
roster. Right, right. Um, with that said, like you just said, we did a little breakdown with our friends at the Arrowhead as soon as that game ended, and the biggest takeaway that we all agreed on, and it is rust. It's also a new system, so rust. You can't really say rust if it's something you've never tried before, but the unfamiliarity of running this new system, there were multiple times, and we had front row seats, so like we saw it front and center as well as Bates could see it, where we had the Woods on their heels. We had a guy or two trapped. We're running in transition, and then we pulled up, and we did what's normal, where you kind of get your subs in and out and toss the ball off to somebody who's familiar with the ball instead of just go, 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 because you want to make them uncomfortable. And Bates said that when he was on and our guest a few weeks back. So I think he was visibly upset, saying, "Let's go, you got to push." But it is coaching, and he did an excellent job. And you saw in less than 24 hours later how different it was against the Outlaws, which I thought going into the weekend, if we were going to win one of the games, I thought it would be the first one. I think you said the opposite of me, which clearly you know ball. We did beat the Outlaws. Love to see it. Anytime you can hold Brennan O'Neill to only putting the ball in the net one time is a huge accomplishment. He is one of the best players in the league. The players after the game said the same thing. But overall, I think coming out of there 1-1, and at the end of the day, it's a 12-game season right now. But because of everything that happened these first 2 weeks, every team is 1-1. That might as well be the preseason. You're starting fresh. Everybody is even, and you have 10 games, just like we have in the past. So we were a little nervous about NLL and not having our first overall pick, but we get out of all of that with an even record with everybody else. So now's when the season really starts.
Yeah. Well, I think a big thing too was obviously like our short six are going to have to contribute. They're now eating into our a typical 19-man roster is 8 offensive players, 3 short sticks, a face-off guy, 5 pulls, and 2 goalies. So now we're at 4 short sticks and 7 offensive guys. We had no points from our short sticks. Piper Bond had a great look early in the game. Momentum is a real thing. I'm sure he was kicking himself for missing it. It wasn't just a walk down Broadway shot, but it was a shot that we would like to see go in the net. And then I mean, not a huge difference, but I think Bo had 2 points. They get a goal and assist. They were doing really really good things. And I think as we continue to progress, obviously McGuire is a threat in transition. Once. And then imagine a lineup where you have Bo and McGuire out there. Little trailer action. He shoves it back to Bo, rips a 2-pointer. I mean, it's gonna be so much fun to watch when they really get the hang of it.
And also, the polls. Like, we have Mason Woodward who can absolutely fire a shot, a 2-pointer. We didn't attempt a single 2 in that first
Yeah,
game from the polls. So there were a couple times when he had the ball in his stick, and I was just begging him to shoot it. Especially if you're down by a couple goals. Like, that's when you need something, like they call it a juice goal. A 2-pointer from a pole, when you're down by 3 or 4, you're right back in it. So
yeah, yeah.
hopefully we see
Just
some of that.
changes the feel of it. But like you said, kind of flushed it, came back. Right about 24 hours later. I think part of the reason why I thought we might win that game was Jared Bernhardt at that time wasn't going to be there. And
Right.
then we get the news in the dark of the night at midnight, the Outlaws roster finally comes out, and they've elevated Jared Bernhardt off the unavailable to travel list. Florida had lost a couple hours earlier, and we're like, come on, this guy's not going to get there. Come to find out, he's in Boulder. I mean, he can get there. And so that not an ideal feeling. Obviously, we don't want to, it doesn't. It may feel a little cheaper without him, but I mean, a win's a win's a win. There's no pictures on a scorecard. And obviously we still got it done. And I think largely in part to the weekend that Mitchell Dunham had. I mean, between the 2 games, he went 8 cause turnovers, 8 ground balls, a phenomenal weekend. And he wasn't the guy on, Mikey Bame, or these, lesser known guys. I mean, he was on the Malloy matchup. He was on, Jared Bernhardt in the second game. I mean, really just a phenomenal weekend. And now you get to think about putting him up on a guy in the midfield. And really kind of opens the door for us to double pole some midfields. I can't think of anybody that I'd want to do that to off the top of my head, but I mean, really opens up the defensive options. I talked to Coach Resch for 45 minutes after that second game, and he was like, "Man, just to have a guy kind of come backfill like that is such a luxury." And yeah, it was much better. Obviously, we got the offense going a little bit more. Connor Fields with 3 and 1, Steins with 1 and 1. Like I said, Bo had 2 points, so really getting some more contributions. King had 4 points. Just an overall way more well-rounded game. Obviously, Lavelle or Lavelle held Brennan O'Neill to 0-6 shooting as the closest defender. He kind of got one over on us on a 17-yard step down on a man up. That maybe he's the only person in the world that could hit that shot. But yeah, just way more well-rounded. The crowd was obviously still very much into it. We talked to Nick Washita last week, kind of flushed it. It didn't sound like there were as many that he wanted back. I think he said the number was maybe two. A 10-5 game would have been really great, but cannot complain at all about having a 10-7 win.
No, yeah, the crowd really showed up on Saturday. I'm disappointed that it's over because normally we have that to look forward to in like week 8, week 9. We do have that circle on the calendar. If they can get to the semis, it's back in
Yeah,
Utah, which would be absolutely nuts. So
yeah,
fingers crossed for that. That would be a dream. Going back out there and watching them play in the semifinals with a chance to get back to the championship for the third time in 4 years.
yeah. I think that's still dynasty level, even off of coming off of a first overall pick season. I mean, it's an 8-team league. I mean, you were going to slip up. We were getting everybody's best game last year. We were missing a lot of guys, and not to make excuses for any of that, because I always say, a PLL game can be won by anybody on any given day. But really, I think the offense is gonna figure it out. The rope unit is gonna become a bigger part of the offense. I wouldn't be surprised, you know, in some of these games, hopefully when we start to score 12, 13, 14 goals, for our rope unit to have, 4 or 5 points. Um, yeah, a lot of really good stuff to look forward to. Everybody's coming off of buys, so ours was a little longer, but hopefully the same kind of element of rust. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so now we have 4 games before the All Star break. We have the Whip Snakes in Baltimore, the Chaos in Carolina, the Redwoods rematch in Long Island, and the Water Dogs in San Diego. So that's what we're looking for over the next 4 weeks. I don't know if there's another built-in bye for the league in there or not, but those are the next 4 matchups. Um, when we look to the Whips this weekend, Aiden Carroll, T.J. Malone, Rob Pennell, and adding their first pick, Joey Spallina, who just finished an unbelievable career at Syracuse, top scorer there all time, passing some huge names. So it's going to be interesting to see how he fits into that system. Obviously, a natural attackman along with Pennell. That leaves either Carroll or TJ Malone to come out of the box. I think we both kind of agree that it's probably going to be Aiden Carroll, who, as of today, is top 3 in potential MVPs because the guy's he's been dominant. And then they have Brandau at midfield as well. So our defense doesn't have an easy game by any means, not that they ever will in the PLL, but quite the matchup that we have to figure out who to cover.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know if I can think of another offense in the PLL really ever that has had. I mean, obviously TJ Malone can get to the rack. Rob Pennell has the question mark dodge, and Joey can put the ball in the back of the net too. But really, 3 more pass first kind of. idea attackmen. So it'll be really interesting to see. The ball's going to be moving quick. But I mean, I think Mitchell Dunham's going to be back up at LSM. I think that's a perfect cover for Aiden Carroll. Um, I think it'll probably end up being Lavelle on TJ, and then we'll put big old Moose Warren Jeffrey on Rob Pennell. That was kind of the Hasek matchup of
Yep.
old. So it'll be really interesting to see how they can kind of react and step up. Obviously, we're going to be backstopped by Brett Dobson. Probably going to put together another goalie of the year worthy campaign this year. I don't know. It's going to be fun. We'll see where the odds makers put the line at this one. I could see this would be in a 21, 22 and a half goal over under. So it'll be interesting. I think the weather's supposed to be nicer in Maryland, so maybe not quite as gassed of a second game for the Whip Snakes, but I don't know. It's hard to play two games in 24 hours, and I think right now on the schedule, I think the first game's at 6 and the second game's at 5:30. So I mean, they're going to be under 24 hours rest from start to start. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, anybody can win any game on any given day, and it's just going to be who comes out there, and hopefully, they'll have enough time to see really what the scheme is going to be for, like I said, that three kind of pass first attackmen. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I'm excited to watch.
So pro day this weekend. Do you want Coach Bates to pick an attackman? Do you want to add to our midfield depth? What are your thoughts on potentials for pro day? Without going into specific players or names, I don't. There's such a long list of guys, but we saw
Yeah,
some playing this weekend for the college teams that were in the Final Four. Do you want goal scorers or do you want beef up the midfield? I think
yeah.
our
I think
defense is
it's
set, right? So
Yeah. I wouldn't touch that. I think it's got to be a Dodge first midfielder if we're going to do anything. I mean, I think Trey brings that back to the offense. Steins was shaking and baking a little bit in Utah. King can definitely do it. But if there's another archetype that we might need, I think it's got to be the downhill Dodge midfielder. I mean, obviously we have Fields, who's just a magician with the stick. I personally think we might end up seeing a little bit of Dyson at attack. That's our crease finisher. We've got a variety of options on the righty wing. We can throw King back there and have him work for Mex. We can have CK and have the mid range score, and we can have Trey with a little bit of dodging and the long range shooting. So I think if we're gonna pick anybody up at all, I think it needs to be a Dodge first midfielder. But I don't know who you cut to make room for him. I mean, we've still got with Grant not back fully yet. I mean, we've still got three guys that I feel like you have to play, and we're just out of spots. So if at all, that would be who I would think. I
yeah,
liked
and
I liked Checo at from Lehigh. I'm not sure we really needed him. He would be the sixth guy over Stoltil. So I'm not sure we'll even make a pick, honestly.
yeah, I don't love that we're gonna have to run right into Checo as a big Lehigh fan. Since he got added today, he's on the 19 man for Carolina. We play Carolina next week after we play the Whipsnakes. So um, if he turns out to be a stud, I would hate to see that, especially the team that he's playing for. I love the kid and I want him to do well, but you can't root for the chaos, right?
No, no, no.
um,
And shout out to Chad Palumbo, who had an awesome game in the national championship. Great story. I saw somebody tweet, Chad Palumbo gained weight while he was getting chemo, on some Chuck Norris type stuff. And,
it is.
um,
It's,
you
it's
know,
crazy.
it's a great guy to root for. I feel the same way about Yago from Notre Dame. He'll be
Yes.
on the Water Dogs here in a couple weeks. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
it's,
gained a lot of respect for both of those guys watching this weekend. It's the league is in great shape with the future. Some of these kids are just absolute studs.
yeah. So I don't know. It might be time to expand roster sizes top down. I mean, hold 30 guys, have a 21, 22, game day roster. I mean, you talk about some of these college teams running three lines of midfielders.
Especially with how, like, the Archers have two or three weekends where they play twice this year. So if you're going to make the teams play two games within a 24-hour window, why not expand it a little bit? Because that's
Yeah,
tough. The last thing you want to do is start having double headers in like week 8, week 9, and see guys getting injured because it's a long season. The
fatigue.
more you add, it gets grueling. So not a
Yeah,
bad idea. Straight to the top.
yeah.
Maybe we can have one of the Rabels on. We'll pitch it.
But like Piper was saying, I mean, we are going to get some relief. When we get obviously now we're still playing four short sticks, but when McGuire comes, to wear the orange and blue, it sounds like it's a obviously it's still a game, but you're not putting quite as much burn on the legs with 4D mids. So maybe that'll pay dividends for us too, where we're a little bit fresher than other teams.
It's not like I initially thought his conditioning. I said that when we talked to him, that was going to have to be through the roof, and they're just going to be running and running and running. But you make a great point, and he did as well, where they actually get that little break, which is that's big.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, huge.
and if all four of them can be a threat on offense, it's going to be a game changer. And I can't wait for the system to really. We got a glimpse, but
Yeah.
it's only going to get better as the year progresses.
Yeah, no, that first game where the rope unit has 4 or 5 points, maybe with a two from Woody too. I mean,
Oh man.
it's gonna be awesome. So,
So
love.
I do want to. This is something new. Um, the name of our show, Empty the Quiver. After each weekend, you and I are going to empty the quiver and award players of the game. Number one guy getting 3 arrows, number two gets 2 arrows, and number three gets one. And we'll keep the cumulative list throughout the season. Gives us a little player of the year at the end of the year. Something that I think we can do moving forward. So, first weekend, obviously we touched on it. Mitchell Dunham had an absolutely insane debut weekend. Had never played a PLL game before, and he in the two games had 8 caused turnovers, and he had 8 ground balls. He was guarding Malloy. He was guarding Bernhardt. It just you can't make that up. So now after all the other teams now also have played two games, he's leading the league in caused turnovers, which you expect with 8 through 2. So he's our player of the game number one. Gets 3 arrows. Player two, you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, we just had him on. Nick Washuta just absolutely stood on his head. Giving up a combined, what was that? Like 16, 15 goals.
He gave up 9 and 7. Yeah, 16.
Yeah, 16 goals on the weekend. Averaging eight, save percentage over 60. Some really, really great um, kind of outlet passes, and you know, kind of still doing the iPad while he was on the field. I mean, we won a big challenge in the outlaw game, so yeah, he gets 2 arrows for that weekend, and then last but not least,
Our boy Connor Fields,
yep,
familiar name, a guy that we're hoping is in this list every weekend. That
yeah,
means he scored a bunch of goals. He had 5 points on the weekend, 4 goals and an assist, especially the Denver game where he had the hat trick. And it seemed right out of the gate. Like a player like him, he knows, obviously, after a game where we lose 9-5, somebody's got to be the spark. You asked Coach Bates in the press conference, who is going to really come out here and put the ball in the back of the net? And so Connor Fields right away got the crowd involved, scored 2 goals very early in that game, and he was the Connor Fields that we're used to seeing.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, highlight real goals. And threw tacked an assist on there too. Yeah, we if we're gonna win games, he's gonna have to do that regularly.
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
how that goal where he went behind the window's this big. he,
yeah,
he puts the ball right there. And McNaney, the look on his face is just like, are you serious? What am I supposed to do?
yeah. So, we'll keep a running total. We'll probably do some releases, maybe at the All-Star break and with a couple games left of kind of where the leaderboard sits. So definitely keep out and look out for that. I think there may be a little prize at the end. So um, you know, players, wow us.
Yes, it'd be pretty sick to be able to give that little prize on the stage of the championship, right?
Yes.
Very well after they award Brett Dobson his third championship game MVP, but still, we'll be there. We'll be on the field.
Yeah, that's right.
Last but not least, card segment. Did you get a card prepared?
I did.
All right, cool. You want to start, and I'll go second.
I'm I'm happy to. I mean, we didn't talk about him a ton today, but with the nature of the position that he plays, that's a good thing. So this is a Brennan Lavelle numbered out of 10 rookie card, red border. Um, like we said, destroyed the Brennan O'Neill matchup. And he's going to be the number one stopper all season. So, I think a lot of the guys said that he was going to be the guy to have a breakout year. So, really excited to continue to watch his development. And yeah,
That's such a huge ask for a
yeah,
second year guy to cover what could be the face of the PLL. Brennan O'Neill's been talked about for years. And he, like you said, 0 for 6 shooting by O'Neill.
yep,
Just can't you can't ask more. So
no,
uh, hats off to him. My card, giving a little shout out to the WLL. They had their first game this weekend, and who better than the first goal scorer, Charlotte North. This is from the Team USA set produced by TFL. That's one of her autographed tie dye cards. I feel like if you're a lacrosse card collector, you can't not have one Charlotte North card in your collection, and that's mine. Um, Got that one tucked away because she's potentially the greatest woman lacrosse player of all time, and just going to add to that as now the WLL has their weekend matchups. I'm excited to watch her in person because I've never had the opportunity to do that yet. So shout out Charlotte North, awesome to watch them play, and to the New York Charging for the first WLL win.
I know. Hate that we didn't get to see it in Utah, but definitely going to try and make it to a game. I've seen them play in Champ Series, which was awesome, and then I snuck up to the Clemson versus North Carolina game and watched another young lady who has a case for maybe one of the greatest of all time already, just as a sophomore, and Chloe Humphrey. Unfortunately, they didn't get it done this weekend, but she was as advertised, and a lot of these women are. I mean, they're what they can do is so impressive, and the skill that they have is awesome to watch.
I'm gonna bring this up. It's May of 2026, so I'm gonna clip this. Utah needs to have a women's team as they expand the league, and Chloe Humphrey, our first overall pick as the women's team, she can anchor the female version of the Archers. That would be a dream come true. So
That would be
May
awesome.
2026, you heard it here first. Let's make it happen.
That's right. Well, I guess the 20. Maybe she may or may not come out early, so maybe the 28 or 29 draft.
I think it's perfect timing, right?
Yeah. So, well, JB, you're doing a great job taking us out recently. So, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us on another episode. Follow us on X and Instagram. Like, subscribe, heart, thumbs up, comment, whatever you can do. We'll take any of it. But we're still having a blast doing this. So, JB, take us out.
Absolutely. Archers fans, I hope to see all of you in Baltimore this weekend. If you see me, say hello. Come shake my hand. Regardless of if you're there or not, don't forget, let's let it fly.